Michael Burry, the real guy the movie The Big Short was based on, the one who called the 2008 housing crisis years before anybody else saw it coming, just disclosed that he is shorting Micron, and he thinks the entire memory chip trade is about to collapse. Wednesday, Apple headlines dropped that they're buying memory chips from two blacklisted Chinese suppliers just to get around a shortage, and my chat's memory stocks got destroyed. The DRAM position ended the day down $5,000, and on Thursday, the memory stocks plummeted again, and they were down so bad, I didn't even want to go live. But memory demand isn't going anywhere. Meta just raised its own 2026 spending guidance to $145 billion. And Zuckerberg himself said memory pricing is part of why. Zuckerberg's had a sunk cost before too, but he just called it the metaverse. That same week, the jobs numbers came in bad too. Just 57,000 jobs were added in June, worse than people expected. Labor force participation just hit its lowest in 50 years outside of COVID, because more and more young adults aren't even looking for jobs, which is probably why Lacey's viewership stays at 18,000 viewers for 12 hours straight. Now, I want to give credit to Burry because he's actually just not wrong about the numbers. His case, the stock is more stretched above its 200-day moving average than at any point since 1984. His words, not even during the dot-com peak. And by his own math, 1 quarter out of every 3, Micron is a destroyer of capital. That's the guy who shorted the entire American housing market in 2008 and was right while everyone else was laughing. Michael Burry is shorting Micron, betting that the stock's overvalued. NMPLOL is also getting shorted, as Milena is asking for an extra 5% in the cash reserves. I completely disagree with Michael Burry. Memory is only going to get crazier and crazier as time goes on, not less. Memory used to be a pure commodity. Micron would sell chips with almost zero visibility for the next quarter. Demand dipped even a little, prices cratered, and the stock went down in it. That's not what's happening at all, and I don't think that's ever going to happen in the near future. Micron's entire 2026 HBM production is already sold out. Think about it. A $1 trillion company has already sold out. Sold out. Under binding contracts, legally binding contracts. 16 separate long-term agreements, 3 to 5 year terms, $22 billion in commitments that are already locked in. Revenue Micron already knows it's getting. Years out. Burry's entire thesis is built on Micron's cyclical history repeating itself bullshit. This cycle just doesn't have the same thing that made the history cyclical in the first place. But it's not just contracts. Data center revenue is now over 56% of Micron's entire business, up from basically nothing just a few years ago. That's the high margin contracted stuff, not the commodity bullshit that used to swing the stock around just a year ago. Last quarter alone, it grew 150% year over year, which is the kind of number that shouldn't be legal for a company that's been around since the 1980s. But if you zoom out even farther, AI data centers alone are expected to eat up something like 70% of all high-end memory made anywhere in the world this year. And Wall Street's numbers completely disagree with Burry. Average price targets right now somewhere between $1,400 and $1,500, depending on which group and analyst you ask for. 29 buy ratings, 1 is hold, 0 are sell. And just this month, 2 different analysts put out fresh targets of $1,870 and $2,000 a share. Analysts are wrong all the time, but this lopsided against a short case is really interesting. Here's the part I actually think most people get wrong about this whole situation. Everyone keeps calling this a cycle. Memory chips spike, and then they crash, and then you wait for the next crash. But a cycle only happens when supply can actually catch up back to demand. This time, it structurally cannot. Making an HBM chip instead of a normal memory chip takes roughly 3 times the manufacturing capacity for the same amount of memory. You're literally stacking chips on top of each other instead of printing them flat. And you can't just build a new factory overnight to fix that problem. A brand new memory factory costs $15 to $20 billion and takes 3 to 5 years before it ships one single working chip. 3 to 5 years. Demand for this stuff has been growing something like 40% a year. The entire industry has only managed to grow supply by around 15 to 17%. You cannot close a gap that size in 12 months, no matter how much money gets thrown at it. And people are throwing money at it like crazy. But this isn't just Micron's problem alone. SK Hynix, who's a competitor to Micron, CFO said, "We've already sold out of our entire 2026 HBM supply." That's a competitor saying the exact same thing with nothing to gain from lying about it. Goldman Sachs doesn't expect the entire industry to be back to balanced supply until the first half of 2027 at the earliest. And these guys know more insider information than Donald Trump's children.
I feel badly in a way for my kids because every time my kids do, if they invest in a stock or if they go and do a bill, anything they do, because the presidency is so powerful, so big, everything, right. If they buy a cupcake company, well, the energy to make the cupcakes is, sort of like, how's my energy policy? So therefore you have a conflict. Almost anything they do, if they want to buy a truck, if they want to buy, if they buy an energy efficient truck, they have inside information.
Now, this all sounds like the dot-com bubble. This is another "this time is different" story right before it turns out to be not much different at all. And I know a lot of people are skeptical about memory stocks because some of them are up 600 to 700% just this year alone. But the actual numbers don't back that comparison up at all. Back in 2000, a huge chunk of that spending was companies running up real debt to lay fiber optic cables. Yes, fiber optic. It just sat in the ground unused for years. Pure speculation nobody actually needed. This time, the companies spending the most on AI, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and Meta, are guiding to $725 billion combined this year. That's up 70% from last year. Think about that. And they're funding almost all of it out of cash on their own profitable businesses that are generating right now, not borrowed money, which is even crazier. The equipment itself is different too. That old fiber cable was built to last 30 or 40 years. Whether anyone used it or not, it just stayed. The chips going to AI data centers today get replaced every 3 to 5 years because something faster is going to come out. That's not idle infrastructure waiting around hoping demand goes up. That's gear getting used up and replaced on schedule. That's exactly why Bank of America is calling this a super cycle more than like the 1990 boom and the 2000 crash. So if you put everything together, this isn't a normal boom, bust, bang cycle like normal. The math doesn't support it at all. Right now, supply physically cannot flood back in fast enough. The memory demand is being replaced on a clock. It's so similar to how you get a new phone every year. And then there's the actual news that happened today. Micron just announced that they are putting down a $9 billion new factory in Hiroshima that won't ship a single product until summer of 2028. You do not spend $9.3 billion pouring concrete to prepare for a crash. Now, I'm not saying there's zero risk here or to go buy Micron right now. The actual risk isn't just some random headline on a Wednesday afternoon. NVIDIA picked Samsung and SK Hynix for its next generation HBM4 supply, which could cut into Micron's share of that chip's generation. That's the one thing that could turn those $22 billion in contracts from a safety net into an actual issue. So watch the order backlog, not the stock price on a given day. The backlog is what's going to tell you what's going to go on with Micron over the next few years. So here's where I land on everything. Michael Burry, a guy with a documented track record of being right about exactly this problem, is betting against Micron and the entire industry right now, publicly, with his own real money. And I still don't think he's right. This cycle is backed by locked-in contracts, a real manufacturing bottleneck, and disgusting earnings. This is not a hunch, but here's the image I genuinely cannot stop thinking about. While all that panic was happening last week, Micron wasn't even thinking about a correction. They were breaking ground on an actual $9.3 billion factory in Hiroshima, one that won't even ship its first chip until the summer of 2028. We'll find out who's right. And unlike my chat, I'm not selling any of my shares before we do. Before you go, if you want to argue with me about any of this, tell me I'm wrong, or if you're Michael Burry himself, you can join my Discord. My Discord is linked below if you'd like to join. We have 40,000 people in there talking about finance, and we also do a lot of my trading and investments on stream. I like making these kind of videos. I might start doing it a little bit more. Who knows? I just have been obsessed with Micron and Moo, so I thought I would talk about it with you guys. I believe in it. The price and earnings are fantastic. I think the company's going places. I think DRAM is going places, but I could be wrong tomorrow, and Michael Burry could be the next trillionaire. That's it for this video. If you guys want to join us, I would love to have you. And if you like the video, give it a like. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you when Micron is at $2,000. Peace!